Whatever. Anyway, hello everyone, I'm Joe Nash. Hopefully you all have some knowledge of who I am, but I'm here today to talk to you about leaving something behind. I'm going to talk to you about legacy. I'm going to talk to you about how making sure that what you've done so far in your years and times as hackathon organizers, as society leaders, actually makes a difference. So a bit of a warning, there is a disgusting amount of pictures of me with no beard in here. It's going to be bad. Hold on to your seats. So, we are here because you guys are all fantastic. You've all started something. You've all done either some kind of society or some kind of hackathon or some kind of meetup, or you've participated in hackathons. You're all doing something incredibly important. You are all awesome. But unfortunately, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to carry on after you leave. As much of an impact as you've had, you need to leave a solid, well-thought-out plan to make sure that what you've done continues. Otherwise, I mean, this horse has a bit of a crazy eye going on here. I'm pretty sure that if Napoleon got off at this point, it would bolt. You don't want to be the one who leaves their university, leaves their hackathon, leaves their community, and watches it crumble. You don't want this to happen to your community. Obligatory cat gifts. So, and the other thing is, even if you find a good leader, a good successor, even if you're the loudest voice in the room, if what you're saying falls on deaf ears, it's going to have no impact. So as well as finding a good successor, you also need to make a really strong culture and a really strong environment for them to succeed into. So why me? Why should I give this talk? Obviously, most of you know me from my role as developer advocate at Braintree. We're a payments company. We sponsor a lot of your hackathons, as has been in all of these talks. Thank you for all the mentions, by the way. That's lovely. We also host our own one, Battle Hack, where we make ourselves wear silly hats. I'm not sure why. As well as that, I'm also an EU team member at MLH, Major League Hacking, and we are the student league, which supports most of you. You should know all of this by now. I also do a disgusting amount of werewolf with people. But I'm not here to talk to you about either of those things. I'm here to talk to you as founder and former president of HackSoc, the programming society at the University of Nottingham, currently presidented by Luke, with Richard also involved, and where's Gregor somewhere in here? I also realized today when running through this with Gregor that HackSoc has had 3 generations of society members involved with MLH. Apparently we're really corrupt, but that's fine. So back in the day when this was me, so in the beginning, we're all a bit like these baby llamas. We're strolling around. When you first join university, you have no idea what's going on. And you especially all of us, had no comprehension of what is a hackathon. This idea that there are hundreds of people who get together inside a room to program for 24 hours, that is mental when you first join university, when you first join computer science, or even more weird if you've come from a different kind of degree. But what a lot of us did have, or do have, when joining universities, when joining schools of computer science, is a school society. CompSoc and other things like these are fantastic societies for giving you contacts with corporates, for doing social events, for doing mixers. And that was the case when I joined university. I was really involved with CompSoc. I loved CompSoc. And they did a lot of really cool things, like a bus trip to CeBIT every year, which is like a horrible bus trip, but it's really fun. But I wanted to experience more. I wanted us to do something with our skills. I wanted us to go out and make some impact. I wanted us to be doing learning workshops in schools. I wanted us to all teach each other new things. I wanted us to build something cool together. The idea that we could all get in a room like this was the first ever HackSoc social. This is actually where I met Tim. The idea that we could all sit in a room and build something was really cool. So I wanted us to do that. So me and a bunch of others, some of whom were in this room, founded HackSoc. So when we first founded it, it was built around algorithmic programming competitions, which if you've ever done these, basically you get given a horribly defined problem, written in a horrible way, and you have to figure out what it means in a certain amount of time. Us being typical arch nerds didn't really do sport, and we didn't take advantage of the free afternoons from our university on the Wednesday. So we built like a programming competition team. Every Wednesday we would go and train, we'd be taught by a lecturer, and eventually some of us ended up in the finals. I think that team came 98th. Turns out Eastern Europe is a lot better than the UK at this. So we kind of pivoted, we moved on. We went to Hack Days, because that seemed a lot easier. So this was our first hackathon. I don't know if Human's still in the room, but looking back at this, I realized how appalling our graphics work was. I'm very sorry, Human. But this was a 7-hour hack day, and it's really, when I think about this, it's really different format to the hack days of today. We actually had about 4 hours of talks about why hacking. So Cristiano spoke about why hacking. John, I believe you spoke at this, didn't you? You did an introduction to Git. We had loads of really cool tutorials, followed by 3 hours of literally just kind of sitting there going, what did I just learn? It was interesting. Everyone really enjoyed it, and we had quite a big sponsor for our first event. But it looks nothing like what they do today. And then we started attending other hackathons. So bear in mind, student hackathons literally did not exist at this point. There had been Student Hack 1, but we hadn't heard of it, and we missed out on that bandwagon. King's Hack was also starting to form around this time. I think it was Hack Kings, actually. It was starting to form around this time, but again, we hadn't heard of it. So we went to Space Apps, which is still really cool, happens every year, you should go. We went to That's Manchester, Hack Manchester. We went to Over the Air, we went to Hacked, we went to, which one's that? Oh no, that's Music Hack Day. That's Music Hack Day. We went to Battle Hack, which is still the only hackathon I've ever won. I'm not sure my employers are aware of this. They're under the impression I'm good. And we also went to Student Hack, and this was the moment. This was the first student hackathon by students. We took 2 iterations of this picture. We only kept the silly one. I don't know why, but I like this one because Gregor is about to poke this man in the face with a pen. Saif is also here. But the really cool thing about this picture, something I really like, is a lot of people in this photo weren't computer scientists. Already, this is only the first student hackathon, but you're starting to see the impact that hacking can have to non-students. This man, Hanain, he's a doctor, and Gregor at the time was a human geography master's student. I can't even remotely see how that impacts computer science, but so it's so cool that he got involved in hackathons. So Hackstock had a lot of success. We then started to get kind of noticed. So this is Tim. Tim took over as president of Hackstock. Tim, you all know Tim very well, but he was a fantastic successor to myself, and I'm really glad that he took over. It gave us a really solid foundation. And he presented to the Chancellor. This is the Chancellor, right? Andrew Whitty, cool. He presented to the Chancellor, which all of you involved with universities, you know they're quite into the formalities. So this is actually a really big deal. But then also, before that, we had won the award for Best Newcomer. I know that Kings have also won this prize, and I think Goldsmiths were in the shortlist for theirs as well. So this is something that a lot of hacking societies are starting to do. They're getting noticed, which is really cool. So we had a lot of success in our first year, which left me really terrified. This thing was my baby, and I didn't want to leave it behind to spin out of control. See what I did there? 2 jokes in one. To the extent that I was considering applying for a master's at Nottingham just so I could stay on as president for another year. I didn't want to leave it behind with no strong leader and leave it up shit creek with Apple Maps. This is probably the single best joke from that show. So we're going to talk about 4 things which you need to make sure that your society and your community and your hackathon keep going strong after you leave. The first is successors. How do you identify a strong successor? And more than that, how do you support them and make sure that they grow into what they can be and that they be the best that they can be for your community and society? How do you build a strong culture? They need a springboard in which to jump off of. How do you provide that to them so that when they move into the position, they are moving into a friendly environment, an environment that lets them grow? How do you build that environment? What are the other aspects, other than the culture within the student group, that are important? We're going to talk about students' unions, which a lot of people have a love-hate relationship with. We're going to talk about universities, and we're going to talk about the wider towns. And as alumni, how much can you still be involved? You've formed this thing and you've left. Are you going to go be the creepy old man in the corner of the hackathon? Is that a weird thing to do? Let's talk about it. So, successors. We're going to talk about a bit about what makes a good successor. And what I think makes a good successor is exactly what makes a good hacker. And what does make a good hacker? Well, you should know, you're all hackers, you're all fantastic examples of hackers. There are some qualities of hackers, which I think are also amazing qualities of leadership, and also amazing qualities, I've got to take that thing out, and also amazing qualities for actually driving these things forward, driving this movement forward. So the first one of that is passion. As a hacker, you're extremely passionate. Look at the intensity on these hackers' faces. They're really into what they're doing. They're giving up their weekend to do it. They are probably having sleepless nights. They are probably giving up other opportunities they could be pursuing. They've probably learned something new. That is passion, pure and simple. When you want to identify someone to take over who has that passion. You don't want to identify some driverless CV pusher. You want someone who take over who's going to be so into it, who's going to be so excited to be able to do this every day. You want someone who's going to be creative. Hackers are really creative people. You solve problems in crazy ways. When you host a hackathon, when you host a society, you're going to have weird problems like, how do we shower at hackathons? We build a portable shower, apparently. But hackathons are going to go wrong, that is a fact. Societies are going to go wrong, and you need to be creative to solve those problems. Identify a hacker who constantly comes up with innovative solutions to real-world problems. You need to be willing to sacrifice. Who here has seen their grades drop at least some since they've been organizing hackathons? Exactly. If you identify someone who is involved in lots and lots of things and is really, really solidly into those things, they're probably not the best person. If you identify someone who isn't willing to stop playing League of Legends 5 nights a week, they're not the right person. If they're not willing to maybe go to rowing practice less, they're not the right person. If they're not willing to let their grades slip 5%, it is inevitable, they are not the right person. You gain so much from hackathons, so much. You gain education, you gain contacts, you gain possible job opportunities. It is ridiculous to assume that that comes for free. Whoever fills your place needs to know that that is the case. I don't know why that's in there now. I think it's a culture thing. So another fun thing about hackers is that they come up with weird inside jokes. This picture here is a signed picture of Elijah Wood. It's not a real picture of Elijah Wood. It's not signed. It's not really signed. But we started doing this thing at hackathons where every time someone fell asleep, we'd put this picture on them. In the age of code of conduct, it's pretty bad. But the fun thing about student communities is that they come up with cool inside jokes. These help keep your society running. There's so many pictures of Tim with this on him because he looks like Elijah Wood. So the next thing is hackers are very good at sharing. You're all here to share what you've learned and to listen to what each other have learned.
Really hit that photo, it's so bad. Come on.
I'm sorry. So hackers want to share their experience with other people. They want to get up on stage and share what they've built. As a leader, as a hackathon builder, you want to share this culture with as many people as possible. You want to share what you've learned about leadership people. You want to share what you know about building with people. Beres's gas thing is a prime example. He's been involved in hacking and decided to share that wider. You want to identify someone who is an oversharer. Oversharing is good here. That's why we love Kurt. So next is learning. It's really important to note that this is still in university, right? You can't expect the person you pick for this role to be a fully formed hackathon organizer or society president, and you wouldn't want them to be. The most passionate people are the people who have something to gain from it. I make it a point to always be in a job that I'm learning something from. The minute I'm not learning something, I get bored. When you're teaching someone something, they are much more engaged in what they're doing, and you should always put them in a position where you can support their learning. Don't just dump someone into the society of September of your year and go, I'm going for a job now, have fun, run the thing. That's going to be horrible. You should support them in the transition, and my key advice here is to hand over early. I recommend everyone hand over in around early February, and that gives you half a semester where they can shadow you. So there's various ways to do this. The way I would recommend doing it is many of you do a spring hackathon. When you hand over to your new successor, continue to run that hackathon. That is your lasting duty until the end of your term. They handle other day-to-day duties. So while they're observing you put together this hackathon, the experienced member, they're seeing you put together a hackathon, they are applying the lessons they're learning to local things. So say you're a hackathon paired with society. During the week-to-week action society, you might host workshops, you might host meetups or smaller events. Have them organize those events. They can apply what they've learned from seeing you do the hackathons in a safe environment. It is safe to fail on local scale. They can have a meetup that completely falls in its face and nothing works, but they've at least got that room to try that experience. Don't get angry with them when that does happen. That's perfect. You can teach them how to succeed. And the really important thing here is in the handover, make sure that they have everything they need. Don't just drop a bunch of drive files on them and go, have fun, or a list of contacts and go, have fun. You want to introduce them individually, if possible, via email, via calls, if it's local, in person, to every contact you have. The most valuable thing that hackathons and societies have is contacts, especially ones that run a couple of years. HackSoc, in its third year now, knows so many people and has really good relationships with a lot of people. John Stevenson, for a long time, came to hackathons wearing our hoodie, which is awesome. And he's still here now because that is a contact that we fostered and we built. And he obviously knew Tim because we introduced him to Tim. And that's a really important thing to do. And again, they are still learning. In these early interactions with sponsors, while you're there, that is the best time to do that. People are always going to say weird things to sponsors. As Tim said in his talk yesterday, it's a really odd experience to go from not really talking on the phone day to day to suddenly doing business calls. Be on those calls with them, make sure they know how to do these things. And this point is very controversial, especially with this group here. So, elections. A really important thing about choosing a successor is making sure the community is behind them. If you choose a successor within your committee, the community has no reason to care about who they are. You should always host an election. You should always give the community a voice in deciding who leads them. I know it can be disappointing if you've identified someone that you think is going to be the perfect leader and the community doesn't really go for them and they don't get elected. But it's still important to back that person they do choose. That is the person the community identifies with. That is the person the community will back. You should host a hustings. You should have everyone come in front of the society and speak about why they're a good candidate. You should have an extended election period where the community get the maximum involvement with them as possible. And a really important point here is that not doing elections is actually against most student unions, and you want to stay on the good side of the student unions. This is a point we'll touch on in a minute, but it's really important to follow student union policy. So, culture. This again comes in hand with making sure the community are on side. Culture is a shared belief system. It's a shared set of morals, a shared set of beliefs, and a shared set of ambitions. An example of this is that you're all hackathon organizers. We share the culture of a welcoming, code of conduct friendly environment. We have barely had to mention the code of conduct this weekend, but an important thing is we still do. When we mention the code of conduct, we're reinforcing our culture. All of you here exemplify the culture we want to spread, the hacker ethos. You're all sharers, you're all learners, you're all builders. When you are the hackathon culture, when you are the culture you want to spread in your university, everyone can mimic what you do. Who here has spoken to Swift or Jess this weekend? Who felt welcome? Keep your hands up if you felt welcome when you spoke to them. Who felt that they were excited to talk to you? That is exactly the point. We want to make a really welcoming atmosphere, and we want to make an atmosphere where people feel excited to be here. If someone comes up to you with the hackathon idea, even if you've heard it before, you're excited to hear it. It's new to them. It's something they think is really cool, and they want to build it. That is an excellent culture to spread, and being that culture by being excited and welcoming, you are spreading that. But it's equally important to have this concretely written down. If you leave and you are the only example of the right culture, how do they continue that? Someone with good experience of you might have picked up some aspects of that and being able to run with it. But what you want to do is have a written down mission statement that exemplifies everything you want to spread around your university, everything you want your community members to be a part of, so that community advocates can read it and go, I really agree with that, I want to tell people about this. So that your successor can refer to it and say, we're doing this new thing, does this fit our mission statement? So some examples of this, Twilio. Twilio are a company with a huge amount of values. They have these 9 principles which they draw all those values from. Some of them are a bit interesting, like draw the owl. I literally have no idea what that's about. I'm sure someone could tell us if John was here. But some are really important, like live the spirit of the challenge and empower others. Everything that Twilio does tries to keep these values in mind. It's a really important aspect of their culture. Next one is Major League Hacking's mission. All of us in Major League Hacking try to keep this in mind with everything we do. When we did Hackcon EU, we were thinking of spreading the hacker ethos. There was a lot of new hackathon organizers here. There are a lot of people with good takeaways here to share with others. By doing this event, we're spreading the hacker ethos. When we did Landing, we're spreading the hacker ethos because a lot of people there were new hackathon attendees. Everything we do, we can refer back to this solidly written down statement without having to ask the person who exemplifies our culture. So, again, there's a lot of controversial points in this one. I think Angus is going to feel the pain in this one. But you want to build a safe environment. There's some aspects of safe environments for your society which are super important. So your society on the day-to-day operates in 3 places. It operates in the Students' Union, operates in the university, and it operates in the wider town. They need to have a good relationship with all 3 of those things in order to feel safe and be able to expose themselves amongst those places. It's a really cool feeling when you can walk around the town and local community members know of you and wave at you and they're like, oh, look, it's a Hacksock guy. Or they see the hoodie and they're like, oh, that person's from Hacksock. That's really interesting and really cool. To be able to do that, you need to make sure that you're on side of them, that you're following the policies that you've introduced to everyone you need to. So we're going to go through some of the particular aspects of each of those. So, students' unions. Who's had a tricky experience with a students' union? Okay, so I'm going to go through my tricky experience with a students' union. When I was president, which is the next slide? Cool. When I was president, me and the students' union disagreed on one particular thing, which was what constitutes a trip for health and safety reasons. The basics of this is I was not filling out the forms I should have been filling out, and I disagreed that I should have been filling them out. The students' union weren't too fond of this, and they took me to a tribunal. Big scary thing. I could have lost access to the students' union and everything. I won the tribunal. The students sided with me, but it left a lasting bad taste in the students' union's mouth. To them, Hackstock was this society that wasn't doing everything properly. We were fighting the system. We were being inconvenient. We were endangering students in the basis of it. In their eyes, we were endangering students. And this goes back to something really important that Jess said earlier. Hard work is not being hard. I could have easily done that paperwork. It would have been a bit of hard work. I would have had to collect a lot of people's details that I didn't really want to collect on the day-to-day, but I could have easily done it. There was no barrier stopping me doing that. But what I've done by doing this is inconvenience Hackstock for generations. Both Tim and Luke have gotten stuff from the Students' Union. They've gotten grief over this thing still because I didn't do the forms. The venue falling out of Hacknots, as Tim told us the story of yesterday, a hackathon Hacknots lost the venue twice, was a direct consequence of me not filling out these forms. And I'm sure Luke has had other examples of stuff this year. It's getting better, but that's a lot of grief that shouldn't have happened. So when you have these interactions, you need to think about future generations. Yes, it's fun to be like, oh, we're going to leave the Students' Union, but that's going to hurt people. And be involved in other things amongst students' unions. Students' unions do lots of really weird things, like society mixers. They add socials together. Do the computer science and flamenco mixer. That'll be fun. Just do it. Do the fairs, do the balls, go buy a black tie and be visible at these places because it pays off and it makes your community a part of this wider community. So, university. As we found out somewhat painfully, universities are very, very different bodies to students' unions, and schools are very different bodies to everything else within the university. Do not assume that your security department talks to your school of computer science. That is not a thing. But what is really important is to meet everyone in your school. So if you're especially paired with computer science, go meet the important people in there. Go meet the admissions officer. We met the admissions officer and volunteered to help out with open days. So we showed off some really cool stuff in open days. We showed off quadcopters, we showed off Oculus Rift, we showed off spheros, and that had some really interesting consequences. A, we're making the open days more interesting, so the school absolutely loves us. B, we're influencing the sort of students who are coming to the university. Even before they've joined the university, we are spreading hacker culture. We are attracting students who are interested in this stuff, who are interested in playing in this stuff. And the university appreciates that because they're getting more excited and creative students. And lastly, we're doing them a favor. We gave them staff and volunteers. Fundamentally, we saved them quite a lot of money. Speak to other people in university. Almost every university is going to have an outreach program. Universities go to local schools. Be part of that program. Paula, I don't know if Paula's kind of in this. Yeah, very, it's in the top right there. Paula did a fantastic job of leading a lot of our outreach in local primary schools. And at one point, Hacksock was doing like 5 primary schools a week. It was crazy. We went out there, we taught Python, we taught JavaScript, we showed quadcopters, we did spheros. We did stuff with kids as young as 5 and as old as 16. It was a really cool experience, and you learn best when you're teaching people. I've learned most of what I know from teaching it to other people. You don't realize the gaps in your knowledge until you teach. So doing stuff like this is not only amazing for your school, it's amazing for local community, it's amazing for you as a person. And lastly, talk to the lecturers and talk to the high-level people in your school. One of the coolest lasting consequences of Hacksock is that we actually changed the curriculum. This is an excerpt from a module description called G53 Dev. This is a module you can take in the last semester of your final year, and it's worth 10 credits. In Nottingham, we do 60 credits a semester. So this is worth 1/6 of half of your final year. And this is the bit I love. Building things in hackathons. They put in a course where if you wrote up a report of something you built in a hackathon, you would get 10 credits. That is insane. That is so cool. And that was a direct consequence of us interacting with lecturers and interacting with the people who write the curriculum. We said to them, hey, we've got a lot of computer science students. If you want feedback from anything, let us know and we can ask. We said to them, we'll happily talk to you about how the students feel about the course. They obviously comment on the course a lot because they're learning other new things. They say things like, oh, I wish we learned this in university, etc. We shared that information and the university appreciated it and they built it into the curriculum. And don't just talk to CS, talk to the other schools, talk to business school. Talk about how you can give some of the startup ideas that are coming out of these hacks some kind of room to grow. Almost all universities will have an entrepreneur spin-out department that's responsible for trying to make companies of these things. Talk to them, give your students opportunities and make friends with the departments. So, wider town. This one is a really interesting one. So we all need sponsors and we all instantly go to big companies. There are loads of really interesting companies in your town that might not be able to give you lots of money, but can give you other cool things. A really simple example of this is our first hack day, we didn't have a Twitter wall. We had no idea where we got a Twitter wall. All the ones we found were just kind of rubbish. Turns out a local development agency had just built a new Twitter wall product and they wanted to test it. So we let them come, show off their Twitter wall, and in exchange we got a really interesting bit of tech. They got to demo it and iron out every bugs, and we got what we needed. That didn't cost us anything, it didn't cost them anything, it wasn't particularly exciting, it wasn't £10,000, but it was an interaction, and that was really valued by them. Also use local suppliers. This is some kit that we had done by a local kind of hackspace kind of electrician shop. They cut some acrylic letters, which me and a couple of early members used in the hack. It was actually hack fronts. But when we bought all of our electronics equipment, when we bought our members Arduino, we always went to a local supplier. This local supplier really liked that we prioritized them. They really appreciated that. So they started to do nice little things like acrylic cutting us letters. Whenever we bought breadboards, they'd laser cut Hacksock into the side of the breadboard. It was just nice little things like that supporting the local economy gives you a nice edge. And finally, as alumni, when you leave university, don't let that be the end of it. It's okay to have Peter Pan syndrome and to want to lurk around a bit. You can still interact with your university. You can still give back. If you learned something, go back and teach it. If you experience something, if you went to a hackathon, if you went to a mixer, go back and give a mixer. Go back and take the committee for dinner. Host a hackathon just for students, just for your university. Do something interesting for them. And the most important one is if you've got a job out of hackathons, if you've got a career out of hackathons, if you made a startup from hackathons at university, pay it forward. Find a way to get your company to sponsor them. Find a way to help them get internships. Find a way to help them get jobs. Make sure that you're not just being a parasite on university and you're going back and giving back some of what you learn. So, go for a brief summary. Strong successors that exemplify the hack culture. Identify these as you can and get them involved. Help them grow and come to the point where they're ready for an election. Make sure the community identifies with them. You want someone who's not just best friends with you, who doesn't just only hack with you. You want someone who will go around and talk to everyone every time they're at an event, someone that teaches everyone something. Run a democratic election. Don't just bring them in through beneficial dictatorship. You want the community to feel like they've been involved in this selection process. remember that they're still learning. This is a learning experience, even though it feels very real life and very scary when you've got 200 students under a roof, it's still a learning experience. There are things that, if I hadn't broken them in HackSoc, I've never been able to do the 2 jobs I do today. Always have a mission statement. Have your culture written down solidly where everyone can see it. Give them an environment to thrive. Make friends with the Students' Union, the university, and the wider town. And don't be a parasite, give back. Thank you very much. I've been Joe Nash. Have a waving queen. If for some reason there is anyone who doesn't know how to get in touch with me, there's that. You can also see some of my past talks on my lanyard profile. Thank you.